Good day, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Building in India podcast. And today we have a very special guest and a dear friend. Ganesh, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Sandeep and Pushkar. Great to be here at the podcast.
You did your MBA from IMB, then worked with Bain for 3-4 years, and then you decided to start your entrepreneurial journey. What did MBA really teach you about entrepreneurship? And is MBA a useful degree for anyone who wants to become a founder, entrepreneur?
I think business fundamentals is something that an entrepreneur definitely needs to learn. How do you manage the company finances? What does cash flow look like? What does a P&L and balance sheet look like? How does, using one lever for growth affect the other aspects of things? What are the key levers to look at? There are a lot of things that you can learn from MBA. Having said that, doing it from a traditional MBA college, like an IIM Bangalore, for example, is better for a corporate career. There are specialized MBAs for entrepreneurship. I would say that is a much better way of doing, a business degree for entrepreneurs, because learning by doing is one critical thing that you need to learn during the MBA. Most of the, IIM courses, what I have seen, at least when I was there, was around how to become a corporate employee, right? It was more around a business analyst kind of a role that you can probably pick up. So and even when we talked about business strategy, it was all, how do you look at a portfolio approach of a business? In a startup, there is no portfolio, right? It's just one product, and focus is all you need to talk about. So yeah, there are differences between a traditional MBA and a entrepreneurship focused MBA. I would definitely say, if you want to become an entrepreneur, learn those business skills, whether it is by doing or whether it is by, getting an education. Both approaches are fine, but you should definitely look at it from an entrepreneurship angle and not the traditional, MBA from IIMs or ISBs angle.
You talked about two things. One is app ecosystem was exploding, 3G internet was there. So you got your timing right. And it's critical to get the timing right. Second point was you decided to solve a different problem than everyone was solving. How did you develop that perspective? Because it's very easy to ride the bandwagon and say, hey, everyone is doing recharge, like the companies have raised a lot of capital doing recharge. We also do that. But you said, no, we don't want to be a typical fintech company, what fintech models were there at that time. You want to do something different, approach this problem from a different lens. How did you find that problem? Because in my opinion, finding the right problem is also critical.
Absolutely. So it is a two-sided problem, right? A payment ecosystem, on one side you need merchants and the other side you need consumers. So you need to solve the problem of both sides at the same time. What we realized, because we were doing that retail consulting, as I mentioned, was that the merchants had a problem understanding what their consumer, who their consumer was, and getting the consumers on board, right? Where digital first companies had a lot more insights into consumers from day one. Physical outlets did not have a lot of those insights, right? They really wanted to find the right customers that they can focus and, market to. That was one problem from the merchant side. Also, there was another problem with, rush hour, typically weekends. You go to any pub in Bangalore, any restaurant in Bangalore, it is packed to the brim, right?
Right.
Just that payment process at the end, right? After you're done with your meal, the payment process at the end takes about 15 minutes. And that 15 minutes to 20 minutes that happens, for a merchant, that is loss of revenue. You would rather, get the next table, next people on the table, get your additional revenue. And that, if you spread it across a 6-hour time period, that's a significant number of, like 1 or 2 tables extra for every table that you're serving, right? So that was definitely a revenue opportunity for them as well, right? If you look at it from a consumer perspective, for us, the joy of shopping, the joy of going out and eating out with your friends, hanging out with your friends, is what we go out for, right? When you go into a mall, you go shop, get into, after everything is in your cart, then you go into your payment checkout line. Whereas in a pub, you're having your food, you're having your drinks, enjoying your time, company with your friends. At the end is when the bill comes. That moment from when the bill arrives, or when you start standing in that checkout line, it is a major pain. That 10 minutes or 20 minutes that you're there, seems like an hour, right? You want to get out of that because that is not a very enjoyable experience, right? It is not your fault that, you have to stand in line. They don't have enough counters. Why do I have to pay the price?
Yeah.
For me, I have already finished my shopping. I just need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Right? How do you make that process better? Right? The checkout experience. That's what we were talking about. And that's where we came in from. That was the problem that we identified for both the merchants and the consumers.
Yeah, so I think it goes back to Pushkar. We have had multiple conversations on the pod where we talked about entrepreneurs building conviction and deep consumer insights by going out there and then figuring out what the problems are and then solving for that, right? So it's like what you're saying, when you're building a good consumer business, no amount of research, qualitative or quantitative, is enough.
Yeah. And by the way, all these insights that I'm talking about, there was the fundamental consumer insight and merchant insight that we had. But once we launched the app is when we got a lot deeper into it.
Sure.
Right? That's when we understood that, hey, we are actually helping the waiter. And hence the pitch when we went and onboarded the folks was very different now. We said, hey, we'll make the waiter's life easier. Right? And our pitch to the owner was very different when we pitched this, because we found that when people go to pubs, in Bangalore at that time, the microbrewery phenomenon was exploding.
It was just the culture that started.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
So within 3 years, there were about 14 microbreweries that showed up in Bangalore. Every microbrewery, people used to go as big groups, right?
Sure.
Typically 7-8 people, if not more, would go enjoy their evening at these places. They wanted to differentiate from the rest of the crowd. And this became a differentiator.
So they were your
terms of
early,
experience.
they were your early adapters.
So cafes and microbreweries were the early adopters for us, because we enabled splitting the bill among all the people
Or like a
on the
splitwise.
app itself.
Or like a splitwise.
Exactly. The Venmo, Splitwise, whatever,
Yeah,
was
sure.
already on the app.
Nice.
Right? You could pay, you could check out individually, and the bill gets aggregated in terms of your payment. So that was an additional.
So that time, was it backed by wallets? Was it backed by debit card? How would you split the bill? Like, is it topped up on a wallet? How would
No. So initially it was basically a payment gateway on your mobile.
Sure.
Right? So you could use credit card, debit card, net banking, whatever. That's how it started off. You could save your card and then you could transact, multiple times. Eventually, when wallets became mainstream is when we added the wallet feature.
Got
The
it.
wallet feature actually helped a lot in the toll use case, right?
got it.
Where you'll preload the money, as soon as you go to the toll, the money is deducted from the server and you're off, right? So that use case was more enabled by the wallet. But here, each individual could actually, the bill is split among people. You could split it equally, or you could split it by the items people have ordered. So that flexibility was there. And once the bill comes to you, the total amount that you need to pay comes to you, you could choose however you want to pay. It wasn't necessarily preloaded.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And finally, Ganesh, you like this wonderful space that you're shooting at, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think address makers, right? This is makers made it.
Yeah, it's because we're doing it, and our friends at BHIVE are just growing. And they've been very generous to host us in a lot of our podcasts. Big shout out to everybody at BHIVE. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, guys. And we'll see you next time.